Hi, folks. Welcome to the Moving On podcast. I'm Jay Norman, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jessie Norman. Just like many of you, Jay and I have both walked through some difficult seasons in our lives.
And we know just how easy it is to get stuck.
We now have 5 beautiful
and crazy
children, and because of everything we've been through, our home operates on grace.
A concept we didn't fully understand until way later on in life.
Until we actually needed it ourselves. We want to share through stories of love and laughter,
how we were moving on, and how big of a game changer grace can be.
in relationship with one another, and how we treat ourselves, and in our case, blending a family.
Something that may just require the largest amount of grace to date.
Preach.
You never know what road life's going to take you on. We have a podcast.
Yes, we do, and we really hope y'all enjoy it.
Hi, babe.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm so good. Thank you for coming home.
You bet. It's been a long day. I haven't seen you all day, and we've had the kids. Been kind of wild.
We had the kids since Wednesday after school.
Yeah, it's been kind of wild and crazy and a lot of basketball games.
And we had an extra one yesterday and today, and then they were all off of school today.
Yep. So we're back in the attic recording tonight.
Yes.
And having a little bit of fun.
Yes.
And so what all did you do today?
Well, oh gosh, you put me on the spot.
Yep.
I watched kids. I kind of went over this podcast, what we're going to talk about. And then I did about, 19 and a half loads of laundry.
And that was probably just from the last 3 days.
Yes.
All 19 loads. I
Yes.
see. Well, I went to the office today.
Did you?
And worked and checked some wheat around the shop a little bit. Had to take one to the orthodontist today.
Mm-hmm.
And had a little visit with local policeman on the way back. So it took me a little longer to get home tonight.
Jay and I are both on, what is it called?
Deferred adjudication.
At the same time.
In the same town.
Oh, man.
Oh, heck, oh well.
So neither of us can drive.
Yeah.
Our close friends are rolling their eyes right now. We need to slow down. And I really did go the speed limit today to town, and I had 20 angry people behind me because I was going the speed limit.
Yeah, it just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't, and I just had to not look at them. It was a really big thing for me to go the speed limit and not, because I'm a people pleaser, so sometimes I'll speed because I don't want the person on my behind.
Right.
And so to grow through it and be like, you're just going to have to go the speed limit with me because I got a ticket last week.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
Okay, I want you to slow down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this morning I went and worked out early and
Yes.
came back and woke up one of the boys to go with me, and he didn't really want to go. But
No?
No, but I didn't blame him.
He's
it was
not
early
feeling
and
good.
he was out of school, but it kind of brought me to what we were going to talk about today was gratitude, because it made me think about when I was 9 years old and growing up on a farm. And up until that point, I'd been with my dad all the time. And one day when I was 9 years old, my dad came in to wake me up, and he said, let's go. And I said, Dad, I think I want to just stay home and play today up to this point. I thought it had all been for fun.
Aw.
And he reached down and jerked the covers off and said, you don't have a choice, let's go.
Yep.
And
Did you say that this morning?
I did say some version of that,
Aw,
but anyway,
how neat.
I never asked my dad again for, about it. I just got up and went. But
Right.
but I'm grateful for that, and we're talking about gratitude today.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that he did that and raised me and gave me the work ethic to do what we do today.
It's funny. I played basketball in college, and I was thinking of that when you were talking, is when we were running and they were waking us up very early to run, we would run away from campus at 5 a.m. towards our little town. I went to school in Marshall, Texas. And oh gosh, it was just horrible. I couldn't sleep the night before because I was afraid I was going to oversleep. My stomach would be upset and we wouldn't be near any bathrooms. And do you know that was something that I was so thankful for?
Yeah.
Within the next couple of years, it's something that I would talk about so fondly.
Right.
And just be so thankful that I had that in my life, and proud to talk about it, and thankful that I had that group of sisters and that coach that would make us do that. And so it's like it's painful at the time, but when you look back on it, it's so fond.
And it's one of those things you can brag to your kids about. Like, this is
Yes.
what we had to do. I guess
Yes,
that
suck it
goes
up.
generation to generation, you get to do that.
Suck it up. Yeah, and you can grow up and mature into it. And so that's kind of the confidence we have. And I know it's the confidence you have is when you are tougher with them, you know that they are going to brag about it to their children when they're raising children. Maybe they won't be happy right now, but they will be one day, you know?
And they will. And we all have a lot of things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And you and I for sure do. And you know, we talked about your family and being grateful for all that.
Right.
And, you know, I'm grateful for mine and the way they raised me and for what we do for a living, for sure.
Right. You hear, you know, when you're talking with your friends and counseling friends that are going through tough times, it really does make you so thankful for your family.
Yeah.
You know, and where you could probably find ways that you wish things were different, you really just need to center yourself and just be so thankful for what you have, because there are some doozies of stories, you know.
Oh, yeah. And we were both fortunate and had great parents. And you know, that's a big thing to be thankful for, because not everybody gets that either.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. Gratitude floats around, you know, a lot of the quotes, the motivational quotes that you read on the internet. A lot of them deal with gratitude. I love learning about gratitude. I love how gratitude can change your life, can change your perspective, can change your attitude. And so I thought it would be a really neat thing for us to touch on tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of, you know, you look back on everything we've talked about, it's definitely a key part into making all that work. And and I guess, you know, for what we've been through, it really makes you sit back and look at all that, not just ourselves and our families, but, you know, just everything that's happened for it to work out how it is. And it definitely gives us a lot to be grateful for.
Well, we go through little ebbs and flows where we have our kids for, you know, a few days, and then we don't for a few days, then we do for a few days. And so we know when that time is coming near. We know that we are going to get some time together, and we're thankful for that time together. But we want to have the right attitude to where we do soak up those last few hours. I know you feel that, babe.
Yeah.
I've seen you, you know, run out and play basketball in the freezing cold because they are going back to their moms in a few hours. And so when they're off school on Monday, you're just like, Jay, where are you, Jay? You know, you kind of can feel it. But then at the same time, you realize you do need to be thankful for those few hours, because there's going to be a couple of days where you're not with them.
Right.
And so just staying in that attitude of telling God, thank you for my babies. Thank you for our family. Thank you for my husband. Just staying in that attitude, it really can change everything.
It can. It makes you, you know, thankful for every part of it. It makes you, you know, accountable to be there when you do have that time to make it all worthwhile and to make every second count, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, I know I catch myself sitting with them for, you know, a long amount of time.
Way too long, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I love it. I know bedtime's a big deal for us. We spend way too long on bedtime. And I think it's a combination of they're not here for every single bedtime, and when in the world did they turn 10, you know? And so a combination of staying in the moment and staying present. And, you know, I held Cash at church on Sunday, and Cash is like 6 feet tall at age 6. Not really, but he's so tall. And I just thought, I bet you the people behind me are going, why is that lady holding that small man? But he's 6, and he doesn't mind being held by his mama. And I really couldn't remember the last time I'd held him in church, usually because he's at Sunday school himself. But we went to a different campus this week, and gosh, it was nice. And just to tell God, thank you. Thank you for
that one up, didn't you?
Yes. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
He was messing with Jay the whole time while we were singing. He was so heavy, and his feet went down to my shins, but I just kept telling God, thank you, God. Thank you, God. I really do think it can just help combat those negative feelings that we can get in, and the perspective where we start looking at things from the wrong direction. I feel like it hones you back into where you're supposed to be. You know, I was telling Jay in episode 2, we talked about grace for ourselves and just the negative self-speak that we have for ourselves. And, you know, sometimes I wonder, how do we stop that? I'll find myself going to sleep and I've covered 19 different topics in 19 different thoughts. It just bounces. And I don't know if you do that.
No,
but
for sure.
I'm just like Thanksgiving 2007. And remember when we went to Destin? And oh my gosh, I probably should buy some asparagus tomorrow. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going. And I don't really understand why. And I don't really understand how to stop it. And I think gratitude and just stopping and centering yourself and just telling God, thank you. Thank you for my children. Thank you for my husband. Thank you for our health. Thank you for our home. Thank you for our dogs. I think the gratitude can really slow those thoughts down and replace them with something of such meaning.
Right, and a lot more positive.
Right, and it really can change your life.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to, all those positives come from, like we've said in the past, from a lot of negatives that we've had, and it allows us to look at that and smile and know how things turned out and know that things are always improving and getting better, and that allows us to have a lot of gratitude. And saying a while ago, talking about waking my son up and my dad and doing that and having a lot of gratitude, I think it goes back to just how we were raised. We talked about how things are different, but yet we wouldn't change. We talk about how we do things different, but yet we wouldn't go back and change any of that. And, how grateful we are for all those lessons that we took into life, even though, things weren't perfect and things didn't always follow the right path, but we were definitely thankful for all that.
And I do think we worry. Jay and I, we are a blended family, so a lot of times we worry the tougher we are on them, the more they're going to want to be at the other house.
Yeah.
If we're doing too many chores, if we're working on the property too much.
Well, we had that conversation, with one of them yesterday. She was like, "How come we don't go to Jump Street
right
after church like we used to all the time in our life?"
I was a little too. It was my child, and so when it's my children, I'm a little too honest with them because they are in such a healthy spot, and so. She said, remember, we used to always go to church, go to Schlotsky's, and go to Jump Street. Remember? Why don't we do that?
Yeah, and one of them yesterday actually asked me if she needed to take extra clothes. I was like,
yes.
Nope.
And I go, you see, children, we were trying to buy your affection. I told her, I said, we were so scared that y'all wouldn't like each other that we were frantically trying to provide some type of happiness that would draw you all together. And now you love each other, so now you're getting nothing.
Yep, sorry, zero.
Yeah, zero. You're getting, and I said,
Schlotsky's was a stretch.
We spent way too much money on y'all in the beginning. Oh my goodness, we went broke trying to make sure that things were happy. I know even Jay was like, worried that if I didn't have enough drinks or I didn't have enough snacks. We were just worried that they wouldn't like being at our house because of this or because of that. And we really just needed to calm down and trust the Lord.
Little did we know there was a grand plan that was working.
There really was. Yeah. I'm sure God was very tickled at us. But so we were able to teach them that we headed down this path and we're right now. We're good. Sorry you guys don't get Jump Street every Sunday, but we were talking in the last episode about just having gratitude for the trials that occur in our lives. And when Jay and I were meeting on this episode, one of the stories that really came to mind that we wanted to share, and we've shared it on social media before, but one of the stories we wanted to share is one of the scariest things that's ever happened in our lives and is simultaneously one of the things that we are most thankful for.
Yeah, for sure.
Where were we, babe?
We were in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico.
I always say we were in Cancun. We weren't.
We were in Cabo San Lucas, and we went on a horseback riding excursion.
Right. You need to back up and tell about dinner.
Okay, so dinner, there's 500 people. And
we know no one.
We know no one other than we're walking through the crowd, and I see one girl I know. She comes up to us and finds us and says, y'all want to sit with us? So we go sit at their table and sit down. We're kind of by ourselves on one side of the table with the lights shining and these people across from us.
Really bright, really just not, bothersome.
Yeah, so it bothers them enough. They get up and they move beside us, and the lady sits down beside Jess, and they start talking.
And
Immediately
that
hit 'em off.
began a love affair.
Yeah. And so they sit down beside each other and talk, and they're like, what are y'all doing tomorrow? And they're like, well, we're going on a horseback riding excursion. And we're like, well, we are too. So, okay, we'll see you there tomorrow.
So we get on the bus, and there was this sweet lady. She got up at the front of the charter bus. Usually on excursions, there's like 30, 40, 50 people.
Yeah.
On this excursion, there was like 12. And so this lady stood up and she goes, there's only like 12 of us. I feel like we are about to make the neatest memories. Yeah. And I wish I could have recorded her saying that.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting that, for it to be no more than it was, and especially on that big old bus. And anyway, she had she didn't know really what that really meant when she said that. So we get there, and they fit us for helmets and all that stuff, and we all stand in line, and they go through and pick out the horses. And I know just enough Spanish to know what's going on, and they were trying to find the biggest horse to put me on.
What was the word they were using?
I don't remember.
What's the word?
I don't remember what it was.
You don't? It meant chubby or
I don't
big?
No, like gordito. I don't know.
Yes. I was like, I hope they're not calling me that all day.
It was all directed at me.
But, one of the scariest parts of that day was the same track that held the horseback riding was also the ATV. So that was really odd to me that we all were going to kind of be on the
horses
same.
were in one barn and the ATVs in the other.
Yes. And we were all going to get on the horses, all 12 to 15 of us, and we were going to head to the ocean. And it just seemed like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they get us outfitted, and we get on the horses, and we all get on there and sit and wait, and we ride out, and we're riding on rock.
Right.
Following this path, and we've got one guy in front of us that's I don't know, what do you call it? A leader or whatever.
A guide.
Yeah, a guide. That's what I was looking for.
And he has this huge knife in his belt.
He's ready.
He's a stud.
Yeah, he's ready.
And you have to tell about the tequila bar, too.
Well, the tequila bar was for afterwards. When you got through riding, you went to the tequila bar.
But did you think maybe our guides had...
The rear guide had definitely already been to the tequila bar for a while.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and so we're riding through the rock. Rear tequila guide, we get way ahead. We get way ahead, and we kind of go down over this hill.
Yes.
And can't see them. Our friends, Steve and Terry, were back behind us. We were more to the front, and so all of a sudden this guy says, "Look, there's a wild horse."
Right. Well, my horse turned sideways.
Yeah.
And I'm about 7th or 8th, and my horse turned sideways. And I remember joking with my horse, like, "What's up, fella? What you see?" Just joking. Well, through the trees, you see a horse just, loping down the trail where we had just come from.
Well, he was bucking. I mean, he was running wild and bucking, and so we turn around and see this horse, and we think it is a wild horse at first, and then we realize that there's a saddle underneath it, and it's running and bucking. So we realize that rear guide tequila man has fallen off or gotten bucked off. We're not sure which, and so the horse runs by and kind of
hits Terry.
Well, no, he kind of makes a circle, comes back, and the front guide gets off his horse, lets him go, and they get on a four-wheeler, and...
But he hit Terry on the first time.
Yeah, bumped Terry on the first...
But hit her good.
Yeah. Coming the first time down the trail, and he gets loose, and he runs through everybody and knocks one guy off his horse. Young guy, fortunately, didn't hurt him.
Oh, yeah. He was so tall, so when he got knocked off, it's almost like he just stepped off his horse.
Yeah. So they get on a four-wheeler and chase him. Well, instead of turning him towards the barn, they turn him back down our trail.
Towards us.
He's making a second run at us.
Right, and Jay says, just turn your horse straight and don't hold him straight, don't turn him. And it was really haunting the way Jay was talking. And meanwhile, while he's talking, we look up on the ridge, and this horse is like out of a movie. Yeah. It was almost, I'm sure he didn't raise his two front paws.
And so he had gone down this trail. He goes down it every day, and that's all he knows. And he is running full tilt, wide open, and bucking.
And so you look up on this ridge, you're staring at the ocean, you're staring at this wild horse with this, saddle up underneath his flanks. He's already run by us once. And you just get this eerie feeling like this is coming back around.
Yeah.
And he does. The four-wheeler comes up behind him, and he makes this wide, huge circle and comes back towards us. And as soon as he gets to the back of our line, which Terry, our friend, is back there, he spooks her horse, and her horse starts sprinting down the trail towards us.
They're kind of up on a hill about probably 40 yards from us.
Right. The look on her face is not one that I've yet to get out of my mind, and that was 1 year ago for sure.
1 year ago.
I cannot get the look out of my mind that she had on her face. I've never seen it on someone's face before. And the noises, the screams that she was making. So Jay put one hand on the back handle and one hand on the other handle to where he was facing what was coming. And that horse, Terry's horse or the other horse?
Well, so the horse that was loose came down first.
And he hit you or not?
No, he'd missed me, and he went right by us. And Terry's horse, I could see, was going to hit me.
Yeah.
So I grabbed hold, and the horse hit me, and Terry hit me is what really...
Yeah. Hit Jay almost like an auto collision. Yeah. It was so hard. He was right behind me. And when that horse hit Jay's horse, Terry went down into the sand. It was a sight I wish I never had seen in my life. It was almost like she was a rag doll. But whatever had happened was in my mind for sure a fatality. Yeah, it was something I'd never wanted to see in my life.
She hit the ground extremely hard, and the horse was running wide open and went off backwards and head first.
Head first, and it went from screams and just desperate screams to head first onto the ground. And it was in slow motion, but not.
Yeah.
And Jay tells me things about me or my horse right then, and I don't remember any of it.
Your horse spooked and started backing up towards her on the ground, and you got him stopped and got off and handed it to me.
I don't remember any of that. And so I did get off, and we went over to her, and that began the whole entire get her an ambulance while the guides kept asking her to want to go back and ride?
Yeah, get up and
want to go ride? Let's go ride. And Jay knows Spanish, and so I just kept begging Jay, please ask them for an ambulance, because it was for certain in that moment that they equated an ambulance with losing their jobs and losing the stables. Yeah. And it was just one of the scariest moments of our lives, because I just felt like our new friend was going to go into shock and going to either she had already lost her life, I hadn't figured out if she was fine yet, or she was about to lose her life.
Yeah, her eyes rolled back in her head, and it looked really, really serious.
Yes.
And Jess got off, immediately gets on the ground with her, and we still got 2 loose horses, and it's pretty wild there for a little bit. Her husband comes running down, and Steve is he's just in shock too.
He's in shock. Yeah. He's gone. His eyes are gone. They told us after that in these types of situations, Steve goes to his happy place. So he's present, but not mentally or emotionally present. And when I realized that they weren't going to get us an ambulance, I just sat in the sand right by her, and I grabbed her hand, and I just started praying.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty traumatic moment.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
And so Jay went and gathered horse by horse by horse. We're trying to call friends to find out which ambulance or, which hospital
to go to.
I'm calling my sister in Baton Rouge. She's a nurse. She can help me. I'm asking her, what numbers am I supposed to be looking for? Because they do have an EMT there.
Yeah.
And he seemed pretty good, but he was really young. Yeah. And he just kept walking up and checking her pulse.
And so we, they keep telling us, ambulance is going to be here, 5 minutes.
Yes.
Well, it's 5, it's 10.
And
we kind of start chewing on them a little bit, like where they're at. And finally, I'm just like, look, just go get a board.
We'll do it.
We'll do it. And so they do. They bring a board. Jess and I and Steve and another couple that stayed. The rest of the people went on the horseback ride they went on and left. So we're there with an EMT, and we get her on there and strap her down the best we know how. And Steve and I pick her up and we stick her in a side by side across the seat and start taking off back up to the stables to figure out what to do. Well, about that time, the ambulance gets there, and this is kind of where the funny stuff starts.
Gosh, it just was like the comic relief of the story. The ambulance drivers didn't even know how to get a stretcher into the back of the ambulance.
No.
So the EMT, he is really nice. I really liked him a lot. He knew how to get her in there. He gets her in there. I get back in the side by side. We drive up to the stables,
which is back over the same rough roads we go. It takes us probably another 10 minutes just to get back to the stable.
We get back to the stables. The ambulance drivers get out of the ambulance. We never see them again. And y'all say, you never see them again?
Disappeared.
We never saw them again.
They're more worried about us giving a statement of what happened than they are to get into the hospital.
They had told them, I guess, disappear because we don't need them getting to any type of hospital. I don't know. Maybe they went to the tequila bar.
Maybe. I don't know.
So the owner of the stables himself gets in the ambulance and drives us to the hospital. I was standing at the back of the ambulance thinking, how can I get into that ambulance? Because I'm not family, but I needed to go with her. And at the same time, Steve said, can you ride with her? And I thought that's because he needed to ride in the front, maybe for information. And afterwards, we found out he just can't really be by that type of situation. And thank the Lord that he can't, because I needed to be. I needed to be in there. And Terry's doing great at this point. We just are keeping her very stable. And so I get in the ambulance, and the EMT tries to close the door, and he turns around and he goes, wait, are you family? And I go, yes, sir, I'm her niece. And she kind of laughs from the stretcher. And so we were going very slow, no sirens, nothing. And so the EMT had to kind of stick his head up in the window and be like, okay, you need to really, put on the gas and turn the sirens on here. So I don't really know why we're being driven by the stable manager in Mexico and Jay's not with me, and so we're being separated in Mexico going to a hospital I don't even know where.
And so when they pull out of the gate, the way it is, I can't even see which direction they go. I don't know where they've even gone. I don't have a clue what hospital. Phone service, maybe not. And so I have to stay there while I'm trying to find a ride. In the meantime, the rest of the people ride back up and wanting to go to the tequila bar. And I'm like, no, we're getting on the bus and we're leaving.
And I was on the ambulance texting my mom and my sisters. I was asking them to pray for Jay because I was so scared. I knew I could see what was about to happen. And I knew that because that sweet group went on with the horseback ride.
Yeah.
And so I knew that those people would get back and want to drink tequila, the best part of the horseback ride. And I knew my husband would be standing there demanding that they get back. And I knew Jay would be, by the end of the night, in some type of Mexican prison.
It wasn't that quite serious, but they did get, or quite that serious. They did get back, and we did get on the bus and head back and get to the hotel, and Jess is at the hospital with Terry. And so tell us about the hospital.
Oh gosh, the hospital was so funny. It was like a soap opera hospital. They were just so beautiful, and the doctors and nurses were just like it was like this beautiful Spanish-speaking hospital. Luckily, the owner or one of the managers of the hospital spoke English, and so he was really great with us, and they got Terry checked out and everything. Just she somehow came away from that with just some major bruising.
Major bruising, but no major damage.
And Jay has the reason for that.
Well, so where she fell in the sand was a depression. It was full of probably about 8 inches of sand. And I walked through that, moving the horses around, and she fell out of all the places. She fell in a perfect spot to absorb that blow and not get hurt. If she would have fallen
anywhere else,
50 yards back from where you come from, she would have been on solid rock. If she would have been forward a little bit from that, she would have been on rock. So.
Right. Jay was walking a good distance back and forth to gather all of the horses that we had all gotten off of. And every time he would walk right by Terry, he would go ankle deep in sand. And we thought that was a really neat part of the story. But we ended up at the hospital, and just the phone calls to the children and the way...
Tell the main one. That's the funniest one.
Steve won't like it.
Well, he loves us. I think
he loves us so much.
And we love him.
Anyways, we got there, and I don't know Steve and Terry. I've met them the night before. By chance, out of 500 people, Terry ends up sitting next to me. And now she's my favorite person on the planet. I love her more than life itself. But Steve, well, she competes with Steve. I love Steve so much. Yeah. But Steve gets on the phone with his daughter, and he's like, Lacey, Mom's been in an accident, horseback riding. Talk to Jesse. And he just starts crying and hands me out the phone, just hands the phone in the air. And I'm looking at him like, Steve, your daughter doesn't even know who I am. And so I get on the phone with Lacey, their precious daughter, who is now like a sister to me. And I tell her kind of what we just told you guys. And she was just amazing and so sweet. And kind of the joke of the story is I hadn't really talked to my kids. And so my kids were, we're in Mexico and my kids are back in Texas and they're wondering where I am. I'm not making my nightly call from vacation. And I finally get on the phone with Cash and I'm like, hi, baby. And he's like, hi, Mama. And Steve sticks his head out the hospital door and he says, Jesse, come in here. I'm about to call Cody, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. And because they have a son, Cody, that they haven't called yet. So I had to hand Cash to Jay and go back in the hospital room and be there just in case I needed to be there for support for Steve.
Right.
So we get back in the charter bus to go back to the hotel. We've broken Terry.
Actually in a van, but.
In a van. Yeah. We've broken Terry out of the hospital. We're heading back. I get back on the phone with Cash. It's my very next time to say hi. And I'm like, hi, baby. And he says, hi, Mama. And Steve and Terry go, Jesse, this is Terry's sister. We need you to tell her hi and tell her what happened. So I hand Cash to Jay again. And I say this to tell you how proud of it I am. Yeah. Not to make fun of them, to just tell you, in those moments, they became our family. Yeah. And I would give Cash to Jay at any moment to talk to Lacey or to talk to Cody or to talk to Terry's sister. And, the reason that we told this long story was just to tell you that if any of those events would have gone right instead of wrong, we would not have our family in them.
We wouldn't have those friends.
No. Yeah. And, the whole rest of that trip, we would go out to our cabana by the ocean and I would be like, oh, I think those people have the wrong cabana, or I think they rented our cabana out to someone. Nope, it was Steve and Terry. Just took over our cabana and we loved it. We loved that they did that. And, they showed up in our driveway the other day, and here Steve and I are just bawling in our driveway because of what we've been through. And we went and visited them in Oklahoma, and they embraced us as another daughter and son, and so did the kids. They are like our siblings now, and they actually even got someone to come take our picture as a family picture. And just if we would have had like a beautiful, normal horseback ride on the ocean, that just would have been so fun, so enjoyable, got to the tequila bar and been like, that was such a neat day. Yeah. It would have been junk compared to the catastrophe that we endured. Yeah,
it was a really crazy experience.
Right.
And turned out really awesome. And for me, when you talk about, gratitude, I mean, we'd been married a year, and I got to see my wife in action to kind of take over a deal, and I was really proud of her. And really proud of the way she stepped up and took care of business, and I think that's a big part of what needs to be said. And I think for Steve, he would say the same thing. And,
Thanks, babe.
and for Terry both, and then the gratitude of finding, two friends out of that tragedy that are lifelong friends that would do anything for us, and we would do anything for them.
Right. Sure, the Lord could have sat him on pool chairs next to us at the pool, and we'd have figured it out. We'd have figured it out talking with them and knowing, but
we still wouldn't have the bond that we've got now.
No, the way he sealed us, and the love that we now have for them, it's almost like it only could have come out of tragedy. And we'll have it for the rest of our lives. Yeah. And so we are so, when you talk about gratitude, not just for the great things that you have in your life, but that one instance taught us to look at things so differently. Yep. Instead of being like, crap, this is happening to us, or I hate that this is going on. Looking at it and going, oh my, are we going to get another Terry and Steve out of this? Just seeing that beauty come out of the ashes. And I think that's such a healthy attitude for us to have, and a healthy attitude to speak into you guys, and a healthy attitude to teach our children.
Yeah, well, I think it gives you to look positive in any situation, the good that's gonna come out of it, because who would have thought when that was going on that it would end up being a lifelong deal.
Right.
Yeah.
When we finished up episode 4, we were just so heavy, and where we had been in our lives, where I had been in my life. I didn't really expect any life worth living after my divorce. I really just thought, I knew God wasn't going to kill me because I was still alive. I know that's a weird thought to say out loud, but I really just thought I had done something unspeakable about getting divorced, because I didn't believe in divorce, and family does not believe in divorce. And so whenever it happened, it was so traumatizing that I just thought, either God's going to kill me, or God is going to have me want to be dead, want to kill myself. And when those two things didn't happen, I had just landed on, so maybe he's going to tolerate me, and maybe I'll just sit over here and he'll allow me to be breathing, but that's tops. That's the tops. Yeah. And when you go from that mindset to what the Lord really does bring you into, the gratitude is just insane. Yeah. I mean, every morning when I wake up, my first thought is, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for waking me up. Thank you, God, for letting me have another day. And I've learned to make that my first sentence to him. And it really does change the whole day. And I really think what we walked through allowed us to have a lot more gratitude than if we wouldn't have.
Yeah. And we had a lot more gratitude about everything. It brought us full circle for our family and for each other, and it brought us to the situation we wouldn't have been there in Mexico for Terry and Steve.
Sure.
And it's just a gift that keeps on giving, and I think we have to keep that in mind and live that way every day.
Right. I think that we kind of make sense of things the way the world makes sense of things, and when God does these really cool things in our lives, it really makes it so apparent that we don't have the mind of the Lord. We have our simple little mind that we try to make sense of this, and we try to figure this out, and we kind of try to make God human, and he's not. Yeah. And there are so many things that I want to ask him when we get there, but I know that the things that we place upon him are so human,
Right.
And he's just not. And that is so evident in our lives because he didn't just tolerate us. He blesses us every day, and he gives us everything we possibly could need.
Right. Well, like we said earlier, we, worrying about the kids and spoiling them and doing all that. And he had a plan that, that's ultimately working out on that. And he had a plan for us with Steve and Terry, and he had a plan for you and I. And we've got, the rest of our lives to look forward to what else he's going to bless us with. And I think we got to be grateful for that.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think it just helps with the negativity. The gratitude can just wash out that negativity like crazy.
Right.
And so instead of, do you remember what you said to them yesterday? You know, my mind always goes to that. Do you remember what you said to her or you said to him? I can't even believe you said that. What is wrong with you? And I'll start to kind of attack myself. And I think if right then you can be like, thank you for today. Thank you for the sunshine. Thank you for my husband. Thank you for my children. And just go straight to the Lord with gratitude and take that space instead of allowing that space to go to something negative or something harmful. Just stealing that space away for something positive can really be helpful. And it's something that we've been trying to practice a lot more.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that's a point that we have to work towards and strive to be every day and be that way.
Right.
To give that thankfulness.
Right. I know we had probably, how embarrassing to admit this, but we had one of our worst arguments of our marriage this weekend.
Yep.
And, we had gotten big for our britches and said, that the podcast had been the healthiest thing for us. And the first 2 months of our podcast has been the healthiest 2 months of our marriage. And then it was like our life went, watch this. Sit back and watch this. And we had the absolute worst fight of our marriage. We've been married 2 years last weekend.
Yep.
And it was the worst fight. I am so embarrassed. I won't even tell you guys about it because I would be flat on the floor of embarrassment, and you would probably call some type of marriage protective services. Let me just tell you, I didn't have a toenail on my big toe when it was all done.
Purely accidental. And having on some big boots.
But the whole time it was happening, yes, I was scared, but I wasn't. I was like, I know how I feel right now, and I know that he is thinking the exact same thing, that we might be making some difference in some lives, and we might be making some strides and gaining, having some progress with our marriage and our family, and gaining some progress for our podcast.
Hello, reality.
But I also just think that is the worst thing for Satan, is to see a family thrive and see a marriage thrive and see some type of ministry become successful. And I just felt like we had come under assault.
Right.
And I knew Jay was thinking the same thing. I knew that he was as remorseful as I was, even though we couldn't shut it down as quickly as we wanted to. And, we recovered so quickly, but it was so large that it was just almost like a bad dream.
Yeah.
And the whole time it was happening, I was thinking, yep, this is what happens. When I told my sister, because she's been our hugest proponent for the podcast.
Yeah.
And she just was, what is stopping you? You have to go forward. You have to do this. And she was our biggest encourager. And when I told her it was a go, that we had gotten everything in place and we were going to go forward with the podcast, she was like, yahoo, get ready for the opposition. Because she knew we would come under attack as soon as we got on some type of radar that we were going to be making a difference. And so the whole time it was happening, I was like, here's our attack, here's our attack. But I just do think it is helpful for everyone listening to know that we do have those things that happen in our lives.
Sure, and I think, too, that, a big part out of it is I know we've made progress just because of the fact that it didn't last long. And, that could have been 2 or 3 days.
But what about my toenail?
Your toe looks fine to me. I can't see a thing wrong with it.
There was blood, you guys.
There was not blood. Okay, quit exaggerating.
There was a little blood.
All right, big for your britches. There was no blood. Can I tell one more thing about our Mexico story?
Which one?
My funny part about Steve and Terry.
With the car breaking down?
Yeah, so I ride.
Why?
Because it's funny. I ride back to the hotel, and they get a taxi for me, and we pull out of the driveway, and the guy has to stop and kill it because it won't go and drive, and this happens 4 more times. And so we finally
Does
get
he speak English?
No, not much. And so we're ended up, and I'm 30 minutes from where they're at, 35. And so we go down the road, and we make it about 4 miles, and we come to a drug checkpoint.
Stop it.
Yeah, and there's guys with machine guns, and they're looking in the truck, or looking in this minivan, seeing what's in there. So we get through that, and we get close to the hospital. He can't find it. We make 4 U-turns. There's people everywhere. Pretty rough part of town.
Tell me about the family on the moped.
We driving by this grocery store, and this moped shoots out in traffic in front of us, and there's a man and a woman and a baby sitting on the gas tank. And they have groceries in their hands, and they're riding down the road, and there's cars everywhere. So anyway, this girl takes it upon herself. I mean, for sure gratefulness, drives all the way from the hotel, finds us in this taxi, and leads us to the correct hospital because the guy can't find it. And we get there, and I get to see Jess, and it's all good. But that was a crazy part of my story, was the ending. It was pretty wild.
Yep, that was crazy. We were all so worried about Terry's health, and they were all so worried about getting shut down. That was their livelihood. Yeah. And I love Mexico. I love it. But it was a huge wake-up call to me that if something bad happens in Mexico, you may not be in the best spot possible for medical care and attention. Because we definitely had to beg them to get the ambulance. And we are so thankful that she was okay.
Yeah, we did got her. She got to go to a great hospital and everything.
Yeah.
Turned out good, and she was really sore, but the rest of the trip was great.
Oh, huge bruises all over her. These contusions you've never seen in your life. And in sand, so can you imagine of something else?
Yep.
But, babe, I'm so thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you, too. A lot of gratitude for our life. And how it's turned out and what we've got to look forward to, not just today, but from here on.
Right.
And I'm grateful for this.
Me too.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I really am.
It really has. What else you got?
Do you know, I wanted to go over each episode because just really fast.
Okay.
And so episode 1 is called Grace, and it's on Grace.
On Grace, yep.
Grace. Episode 2 is called Mechanican.
No, Monkey Piston in the Ocean.
Monkey Piston in the Ocean. I'm so glad you said that.
And that's about grace for ourselves and
yourselves.
a little more on grace.
Grace for yourselves. Episode 2, if you're having trouble kind of with how you're speaking to yourself and having grace for yourself, episode 2 is where you need to go. Episode 3 is called Mechanican with Humility. And that one is just having humility in life and in your relationships, and talks a lot about dropping the rope.
Yep.
Episode 4.
Episode 4 is fairly heavy.
Fairly heavy.
Yeah, and it was fairly heavy.
And it was some questions that were sent in from some listeners that we decided to go back over so that we could delve deeper into episode 1, 2, and 3. And so if you're wanting to start somewhere, a lot of people have started with episode 1. But if episode 2 or 3 sound great, start there if you want.
Yeah.
And then episode 4 just kind of goes over all of them a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I made it through today so far without messing up any words.
Yeah, or making up any words.
So I did good. I'm improving.
I'm kind of disappointed.
It's not over yet.
I'm just really glad that I made it through the whole episode without crying.
Yeah, did good.
Because whenever I talk about Steve Sloan, I tend to bawl my eyes out.
Yeah.
And that's his fault.
Yep.
But I wanted, after episode 4, to give you a few episodes without that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think it was great.
We really do. We've said it so much, but whenever I grab my phone and I have a 3-page novel text from one of you, my heart does cartwheels. And I don't know what it is about our listeners, but they like to use 1,000 words, and I like to read them 6 times over. It's just the best part of my day.
It really is.
So please keep them coming, you guys. I know a friend today, or yesterday, she goes, I listened to your episode or to your podcast, I hope you don't think that's weird. And I was like, what? That is the best thing that you could text us and say you listened. It gives us such support, and it helps us to have the bravery to make another episode.
Absolutely.
So what you got, baby? Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
I don't think I do either.
All right. What's the song says? The road goes on forever and the party never ends.
I love you.
I love you too. We sure appreciate y'all listening today. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can search for us, Moving On Podcast. That's 3 words. On Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We would love to hear from you. With ways you're figuring out how to drop the ropes in each of your own lives, and even ways that you're not. Hell, that's just as entertaining to us. See you in a couple of weeks.